Why don't you just get a rotary phase converter or a static phase converter? Oh heck. Greetings and welcome back to the workshop. It's fantastic to have you with us again. Yes, that's quite an interesting question. Why didn't I go out and buy a rotary phase converter or a static phase converter? And it's a very simple answer. Cost. The cost of a rotary phase converter are about £1,000 for one that's suitable for this machine, and a static phase converter is around £400, and the variable frequency drive that I have fitted to this machine is under £100. So you can see there is a huge price difference. Now, another aspect of why I've not gone for a rotary or a static phase converter is that is old technology. The variable frequency drive is much newer technology, even though it's quite old itself now. It can do the same thing as the other two, much cheaper, modern, easy. It's much cheaper to run too, which is a huge benefit to having a home workshop like this, because this is what this is for. It's for a home workshop. It's not for industry. For industry, you would keep this on the 3-phase, or you would have 3-phase fitted to your workshop. We're not that lucky just yet. As you've just seen, I have pulled out all the contactors from the back of the machine, and I've also taken out the transformer, the 24 volt transformer, because when I hooked up the 240 volt to it and checked it with the multimeter, it came out at something like 13 volts. So that's no good for powering the 24 volt stuff that's on the machine, which is pretty much going to be a light. With the contactors pulled out, I have kept all the cables that were attached to them together as much as I can. So if we ever need to convert this back to 3-phase, I've got a good start, because the contactors are all still wired together, and the wires all have the numbers, so I know where they're supposed to go. So hopefully we'll be able to put this back to 3-phase if we ever need to. So we are at the back of the machine, and as you can see, I have fitted the variable frequency drive here, yes, on the plate that covered the original electrical panel. Now these devices, the cables all come out the bottom. They're not brilliant. They could do better cable management on where the wires go into these things, because they're a bit naff. But I've done the best I can to make sure that it is safe from electrical touching of your fingers and whatnot. And I think it's come out quite well. I would have liked to have fitted this inside the box, but with the heatsink on the back of the variable frequency drive, we need to make sure that the airflow is free to atmosphere. So getting inside the box, and it would have stuck out, I would have had to cut this plate or cut a new one. But it's wired in. So I'll take the cover off, and then you can see how little there is left in the box. So as we can see here, I've made some major changes. So this here is where the contactors were. And as you can see, it would have been very difficult to get the cables into the bottom of this panel with the contactors, because they stick out quite far. They were very close to the edge of this plate. So we've taken those out. Where all the wires from the contactors would have come would be up here. So we've just wired into these. We have the 2 blocks here, which this is for the common, for the switching, and this is for the emergency stop, which has all the emergency stop coming in. So we have 1X for emergency stop, but we have many buttons triggering it with the micro switches. I'm hoping to find a 240 volt to 24 volt transformer that we can fit down here that can power the lights. So I've not found that yet, but hopefully we will. So for now, this panel can go on. If I don't drop it. I'm not sure what's going on with these screws. Some of them fit, some of them don't. I'm not sure these are the right size screws. They're definitely the ones that came out, but I don't think they're the right size. So in here, it's as was. I've not done anything in here. I've not adjusted any of the switches, because these micro switches were perfectly fine. They didn't need rewiring for the forward and reverse. So all I've got to do now is put the cover on. Now we're going to make sure we get this the right way around. that way. I got asked in the comments last time how I got this off. Well, pretty much the reverse of what I'm doing now. Well, basically, you get them finger tight and then carefully put the screwdriver in and nip it up. It's really to stop oil splashing onto it, I think, because there's no seal. And we can't do it up too tight because we don't want it to crack. There we are, job done. Oh, we can put this back on. Now this hole here that has been added on, we believe that that was for him to be able to oil the gears, which is quite a clever idea. Maybe something Warco should think about putting on all of their machines. Now, working our way around, we come to the electrical panel on the front. This is quite simple because the jog button is a normally open switch anyway, so it makes contact when you touch it, so we didn't need to do anything with that. Now, the emergency stop button, that was a little bit difficult. The original emergency stop is normally closed, and you break the circuit to break the contactor at the back for it to operate. And this proved a little tricky to set up on this machine because finding an emergency stop with a normally open seemed to be quite difficult, especially for one that went through a 30mm hole. In fact, I couldn't find any. A kind gentleman found me this one and donated it to the channel, so thank you very much, James. Very much appreciated. But then we had the issue of fitting it. And after a bit of brainstorming with a few friends, they all know who they are if they watch this, thank you very much to those, we came up with this new reducing plate, which as you can see, fits beautifully, especially with the theme of the workshop, the panic button. The light is still wired in as was, and the switch is still wired in as was, which goes to the back in the back panel. So when we convert the coolant to 240 or even 12 volt or whatever it may be, we'll be able to use that no problem. And hopefully once we get the right transformer, the light will show when we turn the machine on. So that's that panel done. Now this was the switching mechanism for the guard that goes over the chuck, which I was going to wire back in, but then I realised that its position is stupid. It is literally 40mm away from the chuck. Once you get all this piece on as well, it might be closer, I'm not sure, which makes it pointless because if you want to put a bigger chuck on or one of the face plates, you have to remove the guard to then put the faceplate on. So that is an absolute fail. This really should have been set right back here with a big guard on. So that's something I might do in the future, but right now we've got to get this machine sorted. We've wired in the jog button. I've now turned the machine on. It's now plugged in and on. We shall show that the jog button works. So it's quite responsive. I think there's some settings that we can improve that on, but it works. If we turn the operating lever to forwards, it works as it did in the last episode. Now excitingly, if I press this button here, it stops. And no matter what I do with this lever over here, turning it off, going to a different position, it will not restart. We have to release the emergency button and then we can set the machine going again. Which is brilliant! So what about the foot brake? Does that work? So we shall turn the machine on. Like so. And without hitting any other buttons, we shall stand on the pedal. And if we press right down, the brakes applied to the spindle stops it. Now, I have not touched that lever. It is still in the on position. If I lift my foot up, this should not turn. And it doesn't. So you have to flick the switch back down and turn it back on again. Which is how the machine was set up originally. So I have managed to keep all of its original functions as they should. If I take this M panel off, the machine will not start, or if I was running the machine, it would cut off, as it normally would from the factory. So I'm really pleased with that. I think that's brilliant. It's kept all its functionality. Now the worst bit is I've got to clean it. Great. Cup of tea first. So this down here is actually a removable tray. It actually slides out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush as much of this off as I can with my really crap paintbrush into that tray and go from there really, because it is quite solidly caked on, even on the back here. Look, this is going to take some work, but we'll get as much loose off as I can. I don't want to use my air blower. I know one thing. I think it's time for some gloves. This is just, I've never seen anything like it. It's hard. You've got to scrape it off. This is going to be difficult to clean this. So, in here I have some, what's it called now? I don't know where the tub's gone. The No Frills degreaser. We're going to have to soak everything in this. Everything. And then hopefully even that's not working. This is probably the worst of the machines I've had. I don't know what this oil is that he used on it, or coolant. And it's not for coming off. And this is neat as well. I'm using this neat. It is like tar. Well, it's harder than tar. I've never known anything like it. Could be here sometime.
A few minutes later.
So I've ended up resorting to a little scraper to because whatever it is that's all over this machine, it is set like concrete. I've managed to get these bits to come up with a bit of Scotch-Brite, but I'm going to have to polish them later. So just thought I'd bring you back to show you the progress of this bit, which that looks a million times better. Wow. Underneath all that oil there's a piece of metal. A few stains on it, I don't know what they are. We're progressing though. Oh wow, much better. Look at that. That's incredible. Just the rest of the machine to do.
The next day.
So it's now the following day. I ended up leaving quite late last night, and I got it this far. I got all the middle bit done. A lot of the stuff removed. It looks totally different down this centre section. It's come up really well, so I'm quite pleased with that. There's a few little extra bits that could do with being gone over right at the bottom of the holes. It is probably the worst stuff I've ever tried to get off, like I've said a million times now. No idea what it is. I'm struggling to get it off. So today I'm trying some of this citrus tar and glue remover. This citrus stuff seems to be quite good on removing tar off cars, so I thought I'd give that a whirl on the machine. So I've sprayed a bit down at the bottom here, and I've sprayed some at the back corner just to see what it comes out like. Hopefully it'll penetrate in and make the sticky stuff removable, but only time will tell. It's definitely working. It's definitely working better than the degreaser. But it doesn't half ruin your toothbrush. That has definitely made a huge difference using the citrus stuff, I think. Still got a long way to go though, long way to go. So I've sprayed this with the citrus tar and glue remover, and I've let it soak for a few minutes. And I'm just going to agitate it with the toothbrush and see how soft it's become. Wow. That has become really soft to get off. That's quite impressive, that. Give it a bit of a bit more moisture. You can see like some of the bits are really stuck on. Well, this bottom bit down here. Wow. I think I left it soaking for about half an hour, something like that. We've just got a tub of degreaser on the side. Keep washing the brush out. Right, so look at that. Look at that. That is incredible. From yesterday to today, that's unbelievable, that, isn't it? It's like a different machine. And it's still coming off, look, it's still soaking into those bits. Oh, it's like a different machine. How good has this turned out? This is absolutely amazing. I hope you'll agree with me that this has turned out rather splendid. I'll tell you now, I've never had so much trouble with oil mixed with swarf that's pretty much set like concrete. It's just absolutely crazy. You know, when I started on this bit, that was so stuck on. Not sure what it was, got there in the end. Yes, there are still areas of the machine that I need to go back and clean again and again, especially the chuck, but I'm going to take that off and do the chuck separately. There's a few pieces. The light, which that needs to come off, that's a 240 volt light, that one, it's not a 24 volt. The coolant hose, that all needs cleaning. Tailstock could do with a good clean, and some of the handles and whatnot. But as a start, I think I've made a huge dent in bringing it back to its former glory. Yeah, the machine's got a few dings and scrapes here and there, but it's a used machine, you know what I mean? It's telling its story. So initially, we tried the no-nonsense heavy-duty degreaser, which is by Screwfix, which it is a really good degreaser, and in some areas it did quite well and it was sufficient to get the horribleness off, but it just couldn't get through the caked on or dried up oil and swarf. Next, I tried my old favourite, elbow grease, which again is a really good product in the right circumstances, but with this lathe it just did not work. It just did not do what it needed to do. Again, some of the lighter areas, it did fantastic. It did its normal sort of work. I'd still recommend it as a degreaser if you're just degreasing something easily. I'd also recommend the no-nonsense one. I still think that's a great degreaser. For this machine, this was the one. Valet Pro Citrus Tar and Glue Remover. This was a game changer. This just ate into it and broke it down. I'm absolutely blown away by it. And even better, it smells nice. It's got this orangey, citrusy smell to it, so it's very nice on the nostrils. And once you're done with it, like now, I can use it to remove the tar off my car. So that's fantastic. So we know the machine now works and operates as it should. I'm now a really good way through cleaning it. Now I'm going to go away and give it a good oil to protect everything while I'm still working on bits and pieces around the workshop. I will carry on cleaning this off camera. You don't need to see the nitty gritties, but I think for this episode we're done, and I'm blown away. I really am. Well, I'll see you in the next video, whatever it may be. Maybe we'll go and make something or do something on the steam engine until we swap this machine with the Harrison, and then we'll start playing with this machine a bit more and we'll get making on this one. I'll see you next one. Laters. Game changer. Absolute game changer.